SARS-CoV-2 is a virus, meaning a actual physical infectious agent that is not just the result of bioterrain or somebody's own endogenous exosome when it's exposed to 5G or something like that. Yes, I think it is a virus, and I think that it's very well established. We have been able to actually look at the shape and structure of the virus in lots of different universities independently and in samples from people and whatever. And compare it to other coronaviruses and to SARS-CoV-1 and to look at how it would have evolved into being and the relationship with bats and other things. Do I think that 5G causes coronavirus? No. Do I think that the people who have COVID symptoms are really some other thing caused by 5G? No. If you do look at a map of the distribution of 5G and a map of the distribution of SARS of COVID-19, they don't match. There are areas that have 5G that were not terribly hit, and there are areas that were terribly hit that don't have 5G. So I saw a number of studies that rolled out, or not studies, like memes that rolled out that said, look, here are the places that were hit, and these were all a month after 5G was installed, or the first place had 5G or whatever. And they were just actually wrong. Like when I went and looked at it, it was pretty compelling because I'm like, wow, if that's true, it was not true. And so this is just like basic fact checking. Do I think that there are companies that are extremely powerful companies that are extremely focused on rolling 5G out? Yes. I think Huawei and Verizon in particular, some other ones, have very deep investment in 5G. Do I think that the safety of it is well enough established to roll it out? No. But I think that on some of the previous wireless communication too. And I also think it on the cumulative load of the total thing. So the fact that it's not ionizing radiation is not the only relevant thing. Yes, that means that it's not like acutely causing you cancer like a microwave. But it's signal, it's transmitting signal. Is signal transmission something that's happening in your brain and between cells that is a part of how the communication of a biological organism works? Yes. Is it reasonable to think that there could be interference? Yeah. Should it be on the burden of the activists to prove that it's unsafe, or the burden of the telecom companies to prove that it's safe before being rolled out? The burden of proof should absolutely be on proving safety. Do we need it? No, we don't need it. Well, we need it for the economy to grow. No, it's gibberish. Do we need it because we need an IoT connected smart city world that fast? No. Do we like fast shit and like we want to get to self-driving cars and whatever? Yeah, we totally do. Now, is 5G based on the frequency bands and everything going to be more dangerous or not than 4G? I haven't done the studies. I haven't to know. I can say that just intuitively, I have concerns about it. And I believe that once it's rolled out, it'll be impossible to do proper studies because you won't be able to isolate it anymore. You won't be able to get to environments where it's not without changing your whole life so much that you've changed enough other variables that you can't say like, oh yes, when you're in the Arctic Circle, your health issues change, but was that because now you're in a pristine environment air-wise or water-wise or a different sun? And so I think I would much rather that we were doing the right kinds of safety studies up front that weren't only looking at acute effects, but chronic effects. This is something that I'm very upset about. Our entire medical paradigm is the topic of toxicity in general and deficiency of nutrient and pathogenicity in terms of infection. We don't look at chronic subclinical issues enough. so we have a clinical definition of okay, here is you have a clinical vitamin D deficiency, right? You've got rickets. Well, here's the level of rickets, or you have a clinical vitamin C deficiency, you have scurvy. Well, pretty much nobody gets scurvy, right? Like you have to be in some fucked up food situation to get scurvy, which is why there are still a lot of kind of mainstream doctors who say you don't need supplements and nobody really needs vitamin C or vitamin D or whatever it is. But then you have what is the optimal level for human thriving and the healthiest people with the healthiest diets. And there's a pretty big range between the optimal level and scurvy. And if you're here, your docs are going to say you're not deficient. But you might actually be, but the deficiency means you are now acutely dying, right? You are in an acute death process directly related to this one identifiable thing. But above that, you might be you will probably live less long and have increased susceptibility to different kinds of diseases, but you'll never be able to track it to this because it's your subclinical level of vitamin C plus of vitamin D plus of a bunch of other things plus of toxicities plus of whatever, right? It's basically just suboptimal dynamics that support overall system homeodynamics. When we're looking, if we're only looking at does this cause an immediate acute one-for-one thing to be able to say this was a necessary and sufficient cause of a disease, that's just a broken model, which is why I think in modern medicine we're quite good at solving acute causation things. If someone gets an acute poisoning or an acute injury or an acute infection, we're actually pretty good at that. But when it comes to complex chronic illness, autoimmune disease, neurodegenerative disease, psychiatric disease, we don't have much in the way of real cures for those things. We have symptomatic treatments and we have things that can stop certain parts of the disease pathology progression. But that's because it doesn't have a single cause, and the many causes aren't even the same ones. They're different causes in different people, and they're very delayed in time. So there's a whole new model of medicine that's needed for that. But if I'm doing safety studies looking for a near-term cause, which I would always, if I am a company wanting to advance something, I don't want to be testing something for 30 years. I don't want to be looking at the long-term all-cause mortality associated with the thing. So there's a very real question of how do we advance new things where the negative effects might be very causally delayed. But then this is where we also have to think about risk and necessity and things like that. So do I think that the safety studies that are done are based on the wrong model of safety? Yes, I think it's the wrong model of safety. Now, do I think that that 5G is a mind control system to kind of brown noise everybody's mind and to activate vaccine implanted nanochips and whatever? It's an interesting idea. If there was any group that was actually that well coordinated and powerful, that would also be kind of interesting. I have never seen any evidence that is compelling. When I've followed some of those rabbit holes, the evidence that I have been able to find is not compelling. That doesn't mean it's not true, right? I'm not closing the door on that's for sure not true. Maybe there are reptilians running shit, but I have no evidence to believe so, and it seems exceedingly unlikely.